friends. Today I'm going to review another book. I just finished it yesterday. It's called The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. So just as a blurb to give you a reference point, let's see. What would have happened if Jane Eyre had not been a naive innocent with a heart of gold? Grab this page turner and find out. Let's see, what else did we say? Oh, this compelling retelling of Jane Eyre deftly serves up a delicious mystery with a side of biting social commentary. So, oh, here we go. Well, one more. Hawkins twists together the suspense and storytelling of Jane Eyre with the atmosphere, tension, and odd characters of a Southern Gothic into a tale of a young woman trying to escape her past, an altogether sinister novel that will make readers of Jennifer McMahon, Ruth Ware, and Donna Tartt shudder. So, it's a retelling of Jane Eyre. Now, if you haven't read Jane Eyre, it's a classic by Charlotte Bronte. Highly encourage you to read it. It's a wonderful, wonderful classic book. It's along the lines similar to like Wuthering Heights, Sense and Sensibility. It's Jane Austen-like. I mean, that type of English language that has stuff that we don't use anymore for words in context that we don't use. So it takes a little while if you haven't read it before to get your head kind of around the language and the phrasing. But then when you do, it's beautiful. It makes me wish we spoke like that more, with more class, more elegance, more meaning. It has so much more depth, so much more volume to it. It feels meatier when you read it than other books. All those, Jane Austen and Bronte's and stuff like that, it just feels meaty when you read it. It makes you feel more, for me, it makes me feel more intelligent to read it, as silly as that sounds. So anyway, I love Jane Eyre. I love that story. If I had not read Jane Eyre and I just read this as a thriller, which is basically what this is a thriller similar to like Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, that type of thriller, I probably would have liked it as a thriller. It would have been interesting to me as a thriller. The only problem I had with it is I didn't like any of the characters. The main character is Jane, just like in Jane Eyre, but throughout the book they do kind of take you back and forth to the other two main characters, which is Edward Rochester, but Eddie Rochester because it's modernized. It's basically set like now. And then there's his wife Bea, or Bertha. So those are the similar characters within the original Jane Eyre, because you have Jane Eyre, you have Edward Rochester, you have his wife Bertha that's in the attic, hidden away with her insanity. Then you have all the socialites and the upper crust and the elites, and Jane is basically servant class because she comes to him as a nanny and a tutor for his ward, Adele. So that's the premise of Jane Eyre. And the mystery of like his wife's in the attic and nobody knows it. Jane and him fall in love. Jane doesn't know his wife is still alive in the attic and he's not available to marry. They find out she's in the attic and, chaos ensues. That's Jane Eyre, the original. So this is a retelling of that. Like I said, if I had not read Jane Eyre, or if no one had told me that this was based on Jane Eyre and the names of the characters were different, I might have enjoyed it more because it would be just a thriller. But I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to enjoy a book when I don't like the characters. And it's not even a thing of reading it and hating the characters. Like, I can still read books even if I hate a character. I need to feel something for them. For this, they just annoyed me. They annoyed me, they frustrated me. I didn't like them. I didn't care about them. There was nothing about them that made me feel like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to them. I'm concerned, I'm worried. Plus, because I had read Jane Eyre the whole time, all I did was compare it to Jane Eyre. Even though it's not like Jane Eyre because it's a modern telling. And the original Jane Eyre, every single one of the characters had integrity, had good character, good quality, had honesty. Well, other than Edward not telling about his wife, but he still was a man of quality and a man of character. And you'd have to read why his wife was in the attic and why he was almost in a sense protecting her. You'd have to read the original. But in this book, they're all petty and selfish and lying and cheating and thieves. I mean, honestly, the socialites that are somewhat Stepford wife-like, I liked all those better than the main characters, because at least I knew what I was getting into when they were shallow and, you know, brand chasing and, you know, all concerned about status and looks and, you know, whatever. I could at least understand that. But Jane and Eddie and Bee in here, I didn't like any of them. Jane was a thief and a liar and just a money-grubbing creep. She just always concerned about status and how important she was, and could she portray being important, and hiding her past with lies. And then there was Eddie, who was shallow and patronizing, especially to women. He was a boy toy. And then his wife, Bee, that's being hid in the panic room, is a conniving, lying thief and cheat. That she had a best friend and basically stole her business from her and killed her own mother to hide everything, and murdered her best friend based on a lie. I don't know. There was nothing redeeming in the whole book. And maybe I could have enjoyed it if it was just, I don't know, even if it's just a thriller, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it, because I just didn't like anybody in the book. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like anything about them. I didn't relate to them. There's parts when things would happen to them and it almost felt like, yeah, you deserve that because you're a creep and a horrible person. So, but the author, she tells the story well. She keeps you wondering how it's going to turn out. That's one of the biggest reasons why I even finished it, is because I wanted to know what happened and how it turned out and what the conclusion was and what finally happened. Even aside from comparing it to Jane Eyre, to wondered, you know, what was the conclusion. So she was a very good author in that respect, in that you could get into the characters and you want to know what's happening. I didn't care what happened, though. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care what happened to them. I just wanted to know. And in the end, it's funny, at the very end, when Jane, in a sense, comes clean and becomes honest, at least to herself, about everything that she's lied about and told about herself, then I kind of sort of liked her a little. But then the other thing of it is that in the very end, spoiler alert, she inherits all of Eddie's and Bee's money, and then she becomes a nicer person, a more honest person. And it's almost like, as long as she was poor, she had an excuse to have no character and to be a bad person. But if she had money, then she could be worthwhile and be a good person. Really? Really, really? That you can't be a decent human being unless you have money? That's a crock of crap. So, I don't know. If you like a good thriller and you haven't read Jane Eyre, give it a go. If you've read Jane Eyre, I don't know if I'd waste my time on it, because you're just not going to like any of the people, and you're not going to like how they try and compare it to Jane Eyre. It's like trying to compare a beautiful, expensive piece of art to a gum wrapper. That's what it's like. It's ugh. So that's my personal opinion about this book. Not about the author, though. She's a great author, and I will read her other stories. Just don't like this book. So that's my take. And I hope you'll keep reading, whether you want to give this one a go or try the original Jane Eyre, which is a whole lot better. Please read that one. That one will sharpen your wit, and it's well worth the read. It's beautiful. It's poetic. Go for it. And all I can say is, just keep reading.